Good morning, my fellow golf ball addicts. Welcome to the channel. Today, I am going to be doing an experiment that I think is very long overdue. We're going to test 3 golf balls and how water affects them. So guys, something else I did was I also stuck something else in water for 1 week to see how it would be affected, and that was Magic Mind. And as you can guess, it was not affected at all. I still had extreme mental clarity, extreme mental focus, and it absolutely still helped me get through my day better than any product can. No crash out, no crazy anxiety brain, just good, clean, healthy energy, something that a lot of us need. Golf is a focus-driven sport, and I'll tell you what, nothing helps me focus and keep my head in the game like Magic Mind. It's absolutely incredible. They also now have Magic Mind Max. They have some that help you sleep. Magic Mind is changing the game, and if you want to see for yourself why I love it so much and why so many other people can't live without it, use the code GOLFJUNE to get 20% off your first already discounted box. Seriously, guys, can't get enough of it. I'm going to drink this right now. That way I can assure that the performance during this test is all at its peak. Boy, that is good. All right, let's get to the test. Guys, as always, if you like this content, please like, comment, subscribe, all the free stuff that helps the algorithm out. Also, you can be a member of this channel for just $1 a month. That's what it starts at if you want to support it further. I appreciate you all that do. The reason that I said this has been such a, long overdue, study is because for about 6 months now, there's been a pretty heavy debate in the comments, at least once a week, where someone talks about used golf balls, or should I play used golf balls, or, will used golf balls affect my performance? And one of the arguments we get into when we dive into that is I always say, hey, I don't trust if it's been in water or not, because I've been told by multiple people that water really kills golf balls. It's like kryptonite for it. But a lot of you have come forward and said, no, water, as long as it's only in there a week, or as long as it's only in there a month. In fact, I had one person recently tell me it can go up to a year with no wear and tear whatsoever in water, which I just don't believe. So you know what? We're just going to find out, okay? Like I said, I've got these 3 golf balls here. One that has been fully soaked in a bowl of water, as you can see here. This is what it was. Just kind of sitting on the countertop just for over a week. Then we also have this one right here, which this one was kind of more of a pond water setting. This is rainwater that's collected in our little fountain that didn't work. And as you can see from the algae, it kind of simulates pond water a little bit. So that one's been for just over 24 hours. And then I have one that's fresh out the pack. Now, these are, of course, I don't have to introduce these golf balls. These are the TaylorMade Tour Response stripes. Pretty easy to see, but this is for the previous year's model. I needed 3 golf balls in a sleeve. I had one from last year. Makes it easy, so just keep that in mind. We're going to go through and we're going to test them kind of how we normally test golf balls. I'm going to do a 50-yard pitch. I'm going to do a full pitching wedge, and then I'm just going to skip to the driver. I'm going to skip the 7-iron because I've got to do 3 tests basically in a row or on the same day, and I got to save some stamina. It's hard to swing 80 times, in a row. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do that, and then we're going to go inside and we're going to compare the numbers and see how the data is, see how it stacks up. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and try to get through these tests. All right, going to start with the 50-yard pitch, and as you guys can tell, if you've been watching the channel more and more recently, we got a new mat and we got a new net, so I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's do this. All right, whew. Okay, done with that one, thank goodness. So I do have to eat a little crow. I will say that the pond water ball actually feels pretty good. Now, I have a couple theories on why. I think one of them has to do with the fact that it's outside water, it sits in the sun, it just kind of heats in its little pool. I think it's just been kind of cooking for 24 hours, and I think that allowed the core to kind of really heat up and get a little more, I don't know, for lack of a better word, rubbery, you know what I mean? And so it's going to have more pop. That's why golf balls in the summertime perform differently than the wintertime. Cold definitely suppresses the golf ball. So by heating it up, you actually can get a little more spring off of it, which is what I felt. So we'll see if the numbers were affected by that as well. Okay, so I did not show you anything from the 3rd ball because I'll be frank, the heat index is 115 out there. It's insanely hot. I didn't want the equipment to overheat. So anyway, I just came in here. I went and did the test, came in here. The golf ball felt a little heavy. I'm not going to lie. There was a little bit of heaviness to it. Not a lot, but I definitely saw a difference. And I pay attention a lot to how the golf ball comes off the club. Does it spring off? Does it, shoot off like a rocket? I use that term a lot. But I noticed it just wasn't coming off the club as hot, it seemed like. It seemed like there was a little bit of delay, so we'll see if the numbers reflect that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and go over to the computer and let's check out these numbers. We'll start with the 50-yard pitch, as always, and we're looking at... Okay, so starting with the 50-yard pitch, you can see there's a considerable difference there. Looking at the golf ball that had no water, 7,711 is just slightly below average. It gets in the red, unfortunately, but it's still a respectable number. It's going to stop on the green. It had a low launch at 25.5. That seems pretty normal to what I've gotten in the past and, the numbers I've gotten from testing this specific golf ball. But the huge difference is looking at the 1 day and the 1 week water. Those are insane. Basically 900 RPM more is nuts. And, I've ran this in my head trying to figure out, what the reasoning is. And the only thing I can really come up with is that, the golf ball sitting in water, that urethane cover, I think becomes very, very, very soft. I think it's getting kind of squishy. I think it's getting borderline fragile. And I think that that's actually absorbing into the wedge grooves a little bit more. And I think that's why we're seeing almost 1,000 RPM difference. Now, initially you might think, well, hey, sign me up. I'm going to dip my golf balls in water and get some more spin out of them. And you can technically do that, I guess, if you dry them off good enough afterward. But we still need to look at the rest of the numbers. So just hold your horses. Let's get to the next numbers and see how they are. We're going to do the pitching wedge next. That's all I can really come up with. Now, keep in mind, this is different than when you have water in between the club and the ball. That actually reduces friction and you'll see a loss in spin. But when it comes to actually just being in water and making the cover itself soft and drying the ball off, it's a little different there. We actually increased our spin quite a bit. That's the difference between a golf ball bouncing and kind of stopping. Golf ball ripping back to you a couple feet. So that's really a huge disparity between the two. And it was apparent on both of them. It was apparent on ball number 2 and ball number 3, both of which had been in water. So I didn't even guess that. We hadn't even talked about that in this debate for 6 months. So I was surprised. That's great. All right, so with the pitching wedge, we are going to look at golf ball number 1 and golf ball number 2 first. Now, initially, it might look like the 1 day water actually kind of beats, the no water ball, but if we look at the smash factor, they're both the same, and you have to look at the club head speed. So I actually swung a little bit faster with the 1 day water ball, so it is what it is. Unfortunately, I would call those numbers a wash based on the smash factor, based on only a yard of difference. The spin is 30 RPM more. I actually say those are basically the same, which isn't a bad thing. What that means is that by the golf ball being in water for 24 hours, it actually did not really affect the performance at all. Now, the core might have heated up like I mentioned before, but as far as the actual performance data, there's no difference, and that's cool. So that kind of I would have guessed there would have been at least a little bit of difference. But when we get to the 1 week ball, that's where things really start to kind of show. We swung pretty fast for the most part, but our smash factor was 1.17. That is a huge drop off. The golf ball also wanted to launch really, really low for some reason. I mean ridiculously low. Lost distance, lost ball mile per hour speed, 2 or 3 mile per hour speed is a huge thing on the pitching wedge, especially when it comes to, the range of data I have. That's concerning. That's showing me that by being in water for a week, there are some serious performance drop-offs. So now, originally I had said I was not going to do the 7-iron testing, but, throughout editing this and, throughout making this whole video, I decided that maybe it would be beneficial for you guys. So I braved the heat. I went out there, faced it, hit those extra shots, got it done for you. What a guy. You know what I'm saying? What a guy to do that for you. You guys are so lucky. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so look, we're looking at 116.9, which actually now is in the green when it comes to, the 7-iron on the testing data. But if you look at the 1 day and you look at the 1 week, you can see that there is a transition. In ball number 1, no water, we have a lot of green in there. We have, a low spin number, which, is kind of reflecting a distance golf ball a little bit. Extra distance, enough to hold a green, but, not enough to really rip back on a 7-iron. All of them have somewhat a low to mid-launch. What I really like, though, is the fact that once you go to the 1 day, you're starting to see where the water affects the golf ball on longer clubs. Everything's in the yellow now. We get that more spin, 400 RPM of increased spin, which is kind of like what we experienced with the 50-yard pitch. We lost about 3 yards of distance because of the spin, but also because of the loss in ball mile per hour speed. Smash factor is probably the biggest difference of the 3. You have a 1.38, which is phenomenal. Then you have below average at 1.35, and then you have, we'll talk about ball 3 here in a second, but there's a huge difference there. And so now you can see that even 1 day in water, the golf ball is affected by those numbers. Not a lot, but enough to make a subtle difference.
Then we get into ball number 3, and that's, now we're looking at red. We're looking at, again, increased spin. Look at the increased spin. It's insane. I mean, the soft cover of that golf ball really did spin more. Why it didn't with the pitching wedge, I'm not sure. Maybe the pitching wedge because of the style of it and the heaviness and how it's hit. Maybe that's just the max of what it can do. But even with the long iron here, you're seeing that's 3 totally different spin numbers. That's insane. And I also lost a crap ton of distance, a lot of distance, like 7 yards compared to the normal. So now we're getting to a point where there's not much of an argument that can be made. If you pick a golf ball out of the pond that's been there for a week, you could lose 7 yards with it. That's substantial. That's a huge, huge difference. Glad I did the 7 iron. Those are some good numbers. I love that. But really, I'm interested in the driver now. I want to see how that's affected. Okay, so a couple things to unwind here with the driver. I normally try to keep my swing speed around like 97, 98 when I'm testing golf balls. I think the heat was getting to me and I was over swinging, so I do apologize. We're going to look at the smash factor to really determine how these golf balls performed. Smash factor, if you're unaware what that is, it's basically how efficient the energy is being transferred from the club head to the golf ball. So, it basically is a formula that takes your swing speed and then takes the ball speed and figures out how efficiently, that's being transferred. If you have a lower swing speed, but you're getting a ridiculously high, ball speed, that's an amazing smash factor, But if you're a high swing speed, but your ball speed's lower, it's going to be a lower smash factor in that regard. That's kind of a dumbed down way to say it, but it's very important. It's a great stat. Looking at golf ball number 1 and 2, they're pretty close for the most part. The only thing I can see that, immediately catches my attention is that smash factor. The smash factor is a little bit lower. So, as far as distance, I know it got more distance, but I also swung almost 3 mile an hour more. So, of course, and the other big problem is 13.8 and 13.6 is way too low of a launch for me. 17 to 18 is really optimal for me right now, and getting that low is just not going to optimize my carry, and so that's why you're seeing the red there. Overall, my biggest determining factor is that smash factor. If you also look at the 1 week ball, we see the same thing, 1.44. The numbers aren't the end of the world. It actually still performed a lot better than I thought it would, but it's still definitely not as good as the fresh out the pack no water. I don't think there's any debate on that. You could make an argument with, the 1 day ball. You could say, well, it's close. Would a lot of golfers even notice that? There's an argument or a debate to be had there. I still think it does affect the golf ball a little bit. You can make your own decision. But when it comes to that 1 week ball, I've seen too much at this point. It's definitely affected the golf ball. The people in the comments who are telling me that golf balls can be in water for a month or 3 months or a year or whatever, you guys just please look at these numbers. Obviously, there is a huge, huge difference there between them.
Obviously, at this point, I can say 10 toes down and with my chest out, yeah, that golf ball was affected. It was affected by every single performance metric. The 50-yard pitch, we saw that increased spin because of the cover being soft. We saw with the pitching wedge, we saw, a drop-off in distance, ball speed. Same thing with the 7 iron. Driver now, same thing. I'm confident that, yeah, if your golf ball's been in a pond for a week, if you find it in there, it's not going to perform the same. It just isn't. And these numbers, I think, can prove that. I think that's enough data to show that. Now, the real question is going to be when it comes to durability, how are these golf balls affected? Now, when it came to golf ball 2, I only hit these golf balls like 50 to 60 times. So golf ball 2, I didn't see any differences in. It held up. It held up really well. They're actually very similar and they're close. I can show them if you want. These are the 2, and if I'm looking over them, there's just no differences there, right? So it's very close. It just seems like the same ball. But this is where things get really interesting. When it comes to the 1 week ball, here's what we're looking at. Now, I have not peeled this off anymore. This is just from testing. As you can see, the golf ball, the cover itself is ripping off of it. It's coming clean off. If you look underneath that, you can see the warping start to happen. That's yeah, you can kind of see it there too. That's bad, right? And this happened after about 15 shots. I was 15 shots in and I started to see that. It actually started out as 2 slits, kind of like how you'll see a golf ball that just doesn't have good durability and you hit it with a wedge, you get those slits. That's how it started, and then I kept hitting it. By the time I got to the driver, it just started peeling off and coming off. Again, talking about the performance numbers and saying, hey, there's a huge difference there, right? Now we look at durability and we have this. Okay, there's a difference. So golf balls are definitely affected by water, and if they're in water for a week, this is the result. It's catastrophic. At least in my eyes, it's catastrophic. I mean, you can't use the golf ball at this point. And once again, thank you, Magic Mind. I couldn't have done it without you. Guys, again, Golf June. If you want to experience life-changing results, if you want cleaner, healthier energy, if you want to get your focus back, if you want to get your clarity back, if you want to take control of your life back, give it a shot. Tell me how you like it. Guys, as always, keep watching, keep saving, keep learning. Until next time.